Please give it up for Mr. Ken Brinson.
Seatbelts. My story starts with seatbelts. A story, a conversation, an encounter about seatbelts less than 2 years ago started me on a pretty hard downward spiral. I had already been rather fragile. I was battling symptoms of clinical depression, which can be devastating. And then I had a conversation about seatbelts. I was teaching a class on ethics to a group of educators in a small rural town here in Oregon. And during the break, one of the students came up and said that she had just assumed a leadership position in her political party, her affiliation in the local area. And I, of course, congratulated her. Well done. But since it was an election year, I said, did you have to have a particular platform or agenda that you were supporting? And she says, no, I'm just promoting one idea. I said, well, what was that? This is what she told me. She said, I'm going to get rid of the seatbelt laws. I asked her to explain that because I couldn't fathom why anyone would be against seatbelts. This is what she told me. She said, Ken, our biggest problem these days is all of these illegal immigrants running around, using up all of our resources and taking our jobs. And then they have too many children, too, and we have to take care of them and educate them. And it's not right. But if we get rid of the seatbelt laws, we'll get rid of more of those people. You know? Thin the herd. I didn't know what to say to that. In fact, I was so overwhelmed that I ended class early and I began my drive back to Portland. And during that drive, I had a reckoning with myself. I was angry. I was helping this woman become a principal of an elementary school where she would be in charge of many children of immigrant origins. I was hurt. Candidly, I kind of fell apart. I did pull the car off to the side of the road when the nausea set in, and I made it back to Portland. But I obsessed over this incident for days. I couldn't work, I couldn't think straight, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I was furious. Now, these symptoms were not new to me, battling clinical depression. I had dealt with these for years. Forgetfulness, anger at the world and its inhabitants. But I was pushing on. I was doing the best that I could. I apologize. So, the symptoms that I was experiencing at that time. I wasn't sleeping well. I was binge eating. I was fat. I drank a lot. My 27-year marriage came to an end that affected so many people. It was sad, but I was still pushing on. The worst part of my personal experience with depression was the overwhelming guilt that sets in. How dare I suffer depression? How dare I be this weak, this vulnerable? And yet I was. It's devastating. Devastating. I continued to fail in my social interactions. I continued to fail at work. I continued to fail in my personal life. I was in a mess. So even though I was already in the care of a very, very good therapist for depression, I was not winning this battle. My doctors had enrolled me in various trials for prescription drugs that were supposed to address this problem and provide some relief, and they weren't. I was having a hard time with that too. So, in trying to figure out who I was and what I was about and whether or not I was stable, I realized that a random conversation about seatbelts was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I fell apart. But I did have the presence of mind to reach out and ask for help. And two of my colleagues, an aside here, I'm fortunate that they're both present tonight. Two of my colleagues who were concerned about me presented an option that I had never thought of. I could take a medical sabbatical from the college and try to get myself together. Now, I had never not worked, ever. And the college gracefully, gratefully said that you can have 3 months to kind of sort yourself out. And so I began to do so. My colleagues were supportive. They began to take over my responsibilities, and they began to clean up all the messes that I'd left behind. I turned to my therapist, I turned to my doctors, and I said, this time we're going to make a difference. This time we're going to get Ken right. And so they increased the therapies and the regimens and the drugs and the therapy. And I did okay with that for a bit. I can attest to the fact that it takes the human body weeks to adjust to a radical change in medications, and that was my case. So for most of those months, I was incapacitated. I stared at the ceiling. I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't watch television. I couldn't concentrate enough to read, or talk on the telephone, or interact with people I cared about. I stared at the ceiling. There were days that I couldn't get up to get a glass of water. I couldn't get up to turn the lights on. I couldn't walk to the bathroom. It was terrible. Time had no meaning whatsoever. It wasn't like I was peering into the abyss. I was driving through it without a seatbelt. I began to think that maybe my life story needed to end. And I began to look at various opportunities, exit strategies, possibilities. But candidly, I was so guilty. I felt so bad about what I was doing to myself and those around me. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't add more burden and more angst to the people that I cared about. I chickened out. But I still needed help. And so I did what academics do. I began to do a little research. And I found online an organization known as Project Semicolon. Now, Project Semicolon is an organization that deals with depression and mental health issues and the prevention of suicide. They believe that most suicides are in fact preventable. In fact, it says so in their mission statement. Those of us who get to a point where we think of ending our life story, but find a way to continue, look at that pause as a semicolon, a pause. A very terrifying and enlightened moment. And we push forward. I have a semicolon tattooed on my body as a reminder of these times. I began to get a little bit better. Finally, my body dealt with all of the drugs racing through my system. Therapy helped. Meditation helped. I began to talk to some of my family and friends about what I was going through, and that helped, and they were very supportive. I began to get more massages. Not just because I'd been atrophying in my condo and I wasn't using my muscles, but because of the healing therapeutic touch of massage, and that helped. And so I began to get a little bit better. And it was time for my sabbatical to end. It was time to go back to work. Now, I knew that I wasn't 100%. I knew that it didn't look like my former self. I knew that the drugs still made me shake a lot on occasion. But it was time. And so I went back to work on Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. Election day. Did not see that one coming. Candidly, the campus was kind of sideways. Colleagues, students, friends, they were afraid. They were afraid of the present. They were afraid of the future. It was a time of vast misconception about what was going on. But I had had my time off. I was supposed to be fixed now. I had responsibilities. I had people depending on me. It's time to push on. During the next few weeks, I reevaluated where I was and where I was going. And I realized that although the meditation was helping, the massage was helping, the drugs were finally working, the therapy was working, I wasn't happy. And I wanted to get to happy. I wanted to do something with my life that was of service to others, but also was happier and healthier for me. Last August, my contract ended at the college, and I did not renegotiate a new contract. I, in fact, resigned my position and effectively ended my career as a professional educator. And then I enrolled in school at this age. I decided that I would become a licensed massage therapist and wellness practitioner. That I would use those skills to work with hospice patients, to work with people who suffered depression, to work with people of advanced age. The people who need therapeutic touch the most often receive it the least. I wanted to share my story. Even though my story's not over, I wanted to share my story, and I wanted to use the skills I was learning in school and some of my lived experiences to assist others. And that's the path I'm on. So now, the former professor sits in classrooms with fellow students, some of whom are here tonight, thank you. These fellow students that are younger than my youngest son, who's also here tonight. And now I learn from them. And I'm very grateful for that. That generation has a more optimistic view of the world than I ever did, or at least the old Ken. I'm learning. I'm on a path where I'm going to help others, where I'm going to be able to talk to men especially about the loneliness of mental health issues. You're not alone. I'm going to be able to help people steer away from the abyss and to find some clarity, some peace, to learn and heal through therapeutic touch. I have given everything I have to be on this path. Everything. And I think that I'm on the right path for me. I do. I believe in choosing your path. I believe in second chances. I believe that you can have a lifetime of service to your fellow man that is also beneficial to yourself. I believe that semicolons are more powerful than periods. And I believe in wearing my damn seatbelt.